Stop spending a fortune on gifts people forget in a week. The Amish have been outsmarting the entire gift industry for generations, turning scraps, leftovers, and everyday basics into gifts that look expensive and cost almost nothing. And today, you'll learn 25 Amish gift-making secrets you can start using immediately to save money, stretch your budget, and finally give presents people actually appreciate. If you want thoughtful gifts without the price tag, this is where it starts. Reusing glass jars as gift containers. Glass jars are basically free gift packaging hiding in your recycling bin. Once you rinse them well and soak off the labels, those old pickle, jam, and pasta sauce jars suddenly look intentional instead of leftover. You can fill them with homemade cookies stacked in neat rows, layered brownie mix showing off stripes of sugar, flour, and chocolate chips, or even sewing notions and craft supplies for a creative friend. A square of fabric laid over the lid and tied with twine instantly adds a farmhouse, market stand feel. No expensive ribbon or store-bought tins needed. You're not just saving money on packaging, you're giving the recipient a reusable container they'll actually use for pantry storage, loose screws, paper clips, or their own homemade gifts. The presentation looks like something from a boutique kitchen shop, but your cost is nearly zero. It's a smart way to turn everyday recycling into charming, useful gift wrap. Homemade vanilla extract bottles. Homemade vanilla extract looks fancy, tastes incredible, and costs a fraction of those tiny grocery store bottles. All you need are vanilla beans and inexpensive vodka or another neutral alcohol. Split the beans lengthwise to expose the seeds, tuck several into a clean bottle, and cover with alcohol. Over a few weeks, the liquid darkens and intensifies in flavor. The longer it sits, the richer it gets. One large batch can be decanted into many small bottles, perfect for gifts. Save tiny glass containers from spices, travel toiletries, or sample products. Wash them, then refill with your homemade extract. Add a simple handwritten label and maybe a scrap of twine around the neck. Bakers love it because real vanilla is expensive and they use it constantly. People assume it's complicated to make, but it isn't. You're essentially gifting them months worth of flavor for the cost of a single store-bought bottle, and the thoughtfulness sticks with them every time they bake. Homemade beeswax candles. Amish-style beeswax candles turn a basic necessity into a luxury-looking gift without a luxury price. Instead of buying pricey fragranced candles that burn fast and leave soot, you melt down leftover wax or use bulk beeswax and pour it into containers you already own. Mason jars, thrifted teacups, cleaned yogurt pots, anything heat-safe. A simple cotton wick, secured at the bottom with a dab of wax, is all you need. For scent, you can drop in cinnamon sticks, dried orange slices, cloves, or even a sprig of rosemary while the wax is still warm. The result is a candle that burns longer and cleaner than most store versions, with a soft, natural fragrance instead of a sharp chemical smell. It feels handcrafted and thoughtful, yet the actual cost per candle can be just cents once you're reusing containers and wax. It's the kind of gift people display proudly and enjoy slowly instead of forgetting in a cupboard. Patchwork fabric gifts. Patchwork gifts are where your too small to use fabric stash becomes the star. Instead of tossing faded shirts, worn skirts, or leftover quilting pieces, you cut them into squares or strips and assemble them into something new. Pot holders, coasters, mug rugs, mini table runners, or small lap quilts. Even mismatched patterns look intentional when they're repeated and bordered with a simple, solid fabric. A layer of batting or old towel inside adds thickness and heat protection, while hand-stitched or machine-sewn edges keep everything sturdy. The beauty of patchwork is that every piece is one of a kind. No one else will ever have the same combination of colors, textures, and memories. You're quietly weaving old garments, past projects, and scraps into an item that can be used every day in the kitchen or living room. To the recipient, it feels like a personalized heirloom-style gift. To you, it's a way to turn what would have been trash into something with years of life left in it. Simple wooden crafts from scrap wood. Scrap wood pieces that would normally end up in the burn pile can easily become impressive handmade gifts. Thin slices of pallet boards or old furniture can be cut into coasters, sanded smooth, and rounded at the edges so they're comfortable to handle. Chunkier blocks can become children's building toys. Smaller branches can be carved down into stir sticks or butter spreaders. Once the rough edges are gone, a light rub with beeswax or food-safe oil brings out the grain and makes the wood look warm and polished. No power tools are required beyond a simple saw and sandpaper if you want to keep it basic. You end up with gifts that feel solid and premium in the hand, the opposite of flimsy plastic. A small set of coasters or a bundle of toy blocks can be tied with twine and paired with a simple note. The recipient sees craftsmanship and natural beauty. You see how little it costs to make from leftovers. Dry mix jar gifts. Dry mix jars are the ultimate, looks impressive, secretly simple gift. You take a favorite recipe, cookies, brownies, pancakes, muffins, or even a hearty soup, and measure the dry ingredients into a tall, clear jar in layers. Cocoa powder, sugar, chocolate chips, oats, flour, spices. Each stripe creates visual contrast, turning basic pantry goods into a decorative, almost gourmet-looking gift. The trick is to press each layer down gently so it stays neat and doesn't mix. You then tie on a card explaining what wet ingredients to add, how long to bake, and any special tips. Don't overmix, batter will be thick, etc. Gets both convenience and flexibility. They can make it when it suits them instead of dealing with a perishable baked good on a busy day. It's budget friendly because you're working from staple ingredients you likely already own, but the final presentation feels like something from a specialty food store. Old shirts turned into aprons. A sturdy cotton or flannel shirt that's past its prime, as clothing still has plenty of usable fabric built into it. By cutting away the back and reshaping the front, you can turn it into a practical apron that keeps its original pockets, button placket, and sometimes even sleeve cuffs as design details. The pockets are ideal for spoons, recipes, or a phone, while the button area adds visual interest without extra work. You trim the sides, curve the arm openings, and attach long ties made from the sleeves or hem so it can be wrapped and knotted comfortably. The result is an apron that feels broken in and comfortable from the first wear, not stiff and decorative. For someone who cooks, grills, paints, or gardens, this is a gift they'll actually reach for. It quietly tells them, I know you use your hands, so I made something to support that, all from a shirt that otherwise had reached the end of its wardrobe life. Homemade fruit jams. Homemade jam turns ugly or overripe fruit into a gift that feels like a small luxury. Slightly bruised peaches, strawberries on clearance, or apples with spots get chopped, simmered with sugar and lemon juice, and cooked until they thicken into a glossy spread that tastes like concentrated summer. You don't need a full canning setup for short-term gifts. Simple, thoroughly clean jars are enough if the jam will be refrigerated and used within a few weeks. Pouring the jam while it's hot, wiping the rims, and sealing the lids gives a satisfying finished look. Add a scrap of fabric and twine around the lid for charm, and maybe a tag suggesting how to enjoy it, on toast, over yogurt, or with fresh bread. Because each batch uses whatever fruit you found, every jar is slightly different. It feels homemade and special. To you, it's a frugal way to rescue produce that stores can't sell and turn it into something memorable. Braided rugs and coasters from old clothes. Braided rugs and coasters are a clever way to squeeze one more life out of worn-out clothing. Instead of throwing away stretched t-shirts, faded jeans, or tired cotton skirts, you cut them into long, even strips. 3 strips get braided together into a rope, and as you go, you add new strips at the ends so the braid can keep growing. That braid is then coiled into circles or ovals and stitched down, either by hand or with a sewing machine, creating flat, sturdy pads. Smaller pieces make excellent coasters and trivets. Longer braids become doormats or area rugs. The colors swirl together in unexpected ways, making each item uniquely patterned without any need to plan a design. They're thick enough to protect tables and floors, soft enough to walk on, and washable because the fabrics have already proven they survive laundry. What started as unwearable becomes something the recipient can use daily in their kitchen or entryway. Amish-style bread and mini loaves. Mini loaves of bread split the difference between homemade and giftable. Instead of one big loaf, you shape the dough into several smaller ones using simple pans or even clean cans. They rise quickly, bake evenly, and look adorable when wrapped in a cloth napkin or brown paper and tied with string. The dough itself can be a plain white loaf, a slightly sweet oatmeal bread, or a hearty whole wheat, whatever you're comfortable making with basic ingredients. When you hand someone a warm loaf, still faintly fragrant from the oven, you're giving them not just food, but a small experience. Toast the slices, butter them, share them around the table. Pairing the loaf with a jar of jam or honey makes it feel like a complete breakfast kit. Compared to store bread, the texture and aroma are worlds apart, but the cost per loaf remains low. Most of what you're really giving is time and care. Handwritten recipe cards. A well-loved recipe, written out by hand, is often more valuable to someone than another kitchen gadget. Instead of printing, you take the time to choose a sturdy card or thick paper and write clearly, including not just measurements and steps, but the unwritten rules: how the dough should look, how long to let something rest, what it should smell like when it's done. You might add a note like, "Grandma made this every Christmas," or "This is the soup everyone asks for when they're sick," giving context that makes the instructions feel like a piece of family history, not just data. You can punch a hole and tie the card to a jar of mix or a finished dish so they have both the taste and the instructions. It costs almost nothing, just pen and paper, but it transfers skill, confidence, and tradition. Every time they pull the card out, they're reminded of you and the story behind the recipe. Herbal tea bags. Homemade herbal tea bags are quietly impressive. They look like a specialty store product, yet you can make them almost entirely from garden cuttings or bulk herbs. Dried mint, chamomile, lemon balm, lavender, or other mild herbs are crumbled and measured into small squares of thin cotton, muslin, or even coffee filters. You fold and stitch or staple them into neat pouches, leaving a bit of string and a small paper tag that can carry a handwritten blend name and brewing time. Grouped in a small jar or box, they feel like an intentional, nurturing gift that encourages the recipient to slow down and enjoy a quiet moment. Unlike many store teas, you know exactly what's in them. No fillers, just herbs. The person who receives them can make a cup on a cold evening, or tuck a bag into a thermos for work. Every sip reminds them that someone took the time to assemble something gentle and calming just for them. Homemade soap bars. Handmade soap sounds intimidating, but once you understand the basics of working safely with lye, it becomes a very customizable, budget-friendly gift. Oils like olive, coconut, or lard are melted together, then carefully mixed with a lye solution at the correct temperature. As you stir, the mixture thickens, and you pour it into molds. These can be dedicated silicone molds or repurposed cartons lined with parchment. After a day or two, the block is firm enough to cut into bars, which then cure for several weeks. You can leave the bars completely plain for a very Amish aesthetic, or swirl in a bit of powdered oatmeal, herbs, or natural clay for gentle texture and color. Wrapped in brown paper with a simple label, they look rustic and pure. The resulting soap is often milder and longer lasting than cheap store varieties, and the person using it feels a small bit of luxury each time they wash, knowing it was made just for them. Recycled tin can planters. Tin cans make surprisingly good small planters once you clean them and punch a few drainage holes in the bottom. Standard soup or vegetable cans are the right depth for herbs like basil, chives, parsley, or small flowers. After removing labels and glue, you can paint the cans with leftover craft paint, wrap them with burlap and twine, or leave them bare for a more industrial look. Fill with potting mix, tuck in seeds or small starter plants, and water lightly. Arranged in a row on a windowsill, they look charming and organized. As a gift, you might give a kitchen herb trio with 3 different herbs and a small tag explaining how to snip and use them. The recipient gains both greenery and flavor for their cooking, even if they only have a small apartment. Your cost covers soil and seeds. The containers and visual appeal come from what most people would have discarded, proving that useful gifts don't need fancy packaging. Crocheted winter accessories. Crocheted ear warmers, headbands, and short scarves are ideal projects for using up partial skeins of yarn. With just a hook and a few simple stitches like single or half double crochet, you can create stretchy bands that fit comfortably over ears, or short neck warmers that button or slip over the head. Choosing neutral colors like gray, cream, navy, or heathered browns makes them easy to wear with most coats and jackets. If you're working with leftover yarn, you can alternate stripes or color block sections to make the design look intentional and stylish. These pieces work up relatively quickly, so one evening of relaxed crocheting can produce several gifts. For someone who spends time outdoors walking, commuting, or watching kids' sports, a handmade accessory is more than decorative. It's a daily comfort item. Unlike mass-produced acrylic pieces, you can pick softer, warmer fibers and make sure seams and joins are strong. Every stitch quietly says, "I planned ahead for your winter." Amish Cinnamon Rolls Gift Box. A box of cinnamon rolls feels like pure indulgence, but the ingredients are ordinary pantry items: flour, yeast, sugar, butter, cinnamon, and milk or water. You mix and knead a soft dough, let it rise until puffy, then roll it out and cover it with cinnamon sugar and melted butter. After rolling the sheet into a log and slicing it into spirals, the rolls are tucked into a pan for a second rise and then baked until golden and fragrant. Once cooled slightly, they can be glazed or left plain. For gifting, you line a sturdy reused box with parchment or brown paper, fit the rolls snugly inside, and close the lid so it feels like opening a bakery package. Timing them so they're delivered within hours of baking makes the experience unforgettable. The aroma alone feels expensive. The actual cost for a dozen rolls is minimal. It's a gift that invites the recipient to put on coffee, gather people, and enjoy something truly homey. Leather scraps to useful items. Even small, irregular pieces of leather can become attractive, long-lasting items. By cutting them into straight strips or simple shapes, you can make bookmarks, key fobs, cable wraps, or minimal coin pouches. A basic leather punch or sturdy nail creates holes for attaching key rings or threading cord. For a bookmark, a narrow strip with a hole and tassel of twine looks simple yet refined. For cord organizers, you cut a rectangle, punch holes, and use a short strap or snap to hold rolled charging cables neatly in place. Rubbing the finished pieces with a bit of neutral oil deepens the color and softens the surface, giving that aged leather look people love. These pieces feel more substantial and durable than plastic counterparts and only get better with use. Because you're working with leftover leather, your cost is mainly hardware, rings, snaps, or cord, yet the end result looks like something sold at a craft market. Scented sachets from fabric scraps. Sachets are tiny, but they do a big job in drawers, closets, and storage bins. To make them, you cut small rectangles of fabric, often leftover cotton from other projects, and sew them into pouches. After turning them right side out, you fill them with dried lavender, cedar shavings, rosemary, or a blend of herbs and citrus peel. A few hand stitches close the top, and you're done. The finished sachets slip easily into sock drawers, hang from hangers, or sit tucked between folded sweaters. They release a gentle, natural scent instead of an overpowering perfume, and many fillings help discourage moths and other insects. Because they're quick to produce, you can make sets of 3 or 4 for each person, tied together with a ribbon or twine. They're ideal add-on gifts for weddings, housewarmings, or holiday baskets, quietly improving how a home smells and feels, while costing very little beyond time and dried plant material. Amish hot cocoa mix in jars. Hot cocoa mix jars bundle comfort into a ready-made treat. You combine cocoa powder, sugar, and dry milk powder in a large bowl, adding a small amount of cornstarch to help everything dissolve smoothly when hot water is added. The mix can then be spooned into clear jars in layers, or pre-mixed and poured for a uniform look. Topping each jar with mini marshmallows makes it feel complete and fun, especially for families with children. A handwritten tag explains how many tablespoons to use per mug and suggests optional additions like a splash of cream or a pinch of cinnamon. Because all the ingredients are shelf-stable, the jars can sit in a pantry for months, ready for snow days or chilly evenings. One affordable batch of mix often fills several jars, giving you multiple gifts from a single preparation session. The recipient gets not just a warm drink, but an invitation to pause, slow down, and enjoy a quiet moment. Hand-carved wooden utensils. Small carved utensils show skill without requiring advanced woodworking experience. Starting from a narrow, flat piece of wood, you sketch a simple butter spreader or coffee stirrer shape, and then gradually whittle away excess with a sharp knife. The process is slow and controlled. You shave thin curls of wood, refining the handle, smoothing the edges, and rounding the tip. Sanding with increasingly fine grits removes tool marks and makes the piece silky to the touch. A finish of food-safe mineral oil or a beeswax blend protects the wood and brings out the natural grain patterns. Every spoon or spreader ends up slightly different. One may have a thicker handle, another a more pronounced curve. That uniqueness is part of the charm. When gifted, these utensils often become someone's favorite. They're used to stir morning coffee, spread soft cheese, or scoop jam. The recipient senses the time invested, even if they don't know the exact steps. Dried orange citrus garlands. Dried citrus garlands combine decoration and natural fragrance. You slice oranges, lemons, or tangerines into thin rounds, removing seeds, and then lay them on parchment-lined trays to dry slowly in a low oven. Over several hours, they shrink, deepen in color, and become slightly translucent as they lose moisture. Once cooled and crisp, you use a needle or skewer to poke holes near the edges and thread them onto twine, leaving small spaces between slices, or mixing in bay leaves, cinnamon sticks, or wooden beads if you like. Hung across a mantel, along a window, or on a tree, they catch the light and add a subtle hint of citrus scent to the room. They feel especially appropriate in winter, when fresh fruit and warmth are both symbolic and comforting. The materials are inexpensive, just a few pieces of fruit and some string, but the finished garland looks like something you'd see in curated, natural decor photos, not something thrown together last minute. Embroidered hand towels. Plain cotton hand towels can be transformed into personalized gifts with just a bit of embroidery. After washing and pressing the towels, you lightly mark where you want the design, often a monogram in the corner, a small motif like a sprig of leaves, or a simple border near the hem. Using embroidery floss in colors that either match the towel for subtlety or contrast for a bolder look, you work simple stitches like backstitch, satin stitch, or lazy daisy. The designs don't need to be complex. Clean, small details look more elegant and are easier to execute neatly. One towel might carry a single initial, another the word kitchen or guest. Because towels are practical and constantly in use, that bit of personalization gets seen many times a day. The gift feels tailored to the person, especially if you choose colors that match their decor, yet the cost remains low. Most of the value is in the time and care spent stitching. Upcycled sweater mittens. Old wool sweaters that shrank in the wash or picked up holes around the cuffs can live on as warm, durable mittens. You lay the sweater flat, place your hand on it, and trace a mitten shape with generous room around the fingers and thumb. Cutting through both layers at once gives you a matched pair per side. With right sides together, you sew around the curves, leaving the wrist area open. For extra warmth, you can repeat the process with fleece and sew the fleece lining inside the wool shell. The original ribbed hem of the sweater often makes a perfect cuff that hugs the wrist and keeps out drafts. The resulting mittens are thick, cozy, and uniquely patterned, thanks to the sweater's original design. Each pair costs almost nothing beyond thread and maybe a bit of lining fabric, yet feels custom-made. In cold climates, this kind of gift is not just thoughtful, it's genuinely useful all winter. Amish Friendship Bread Starter. Friendship Bread Starter is more than a recipe. It's an ongoing project you pass along. You mix flour, sugar, milk, and sometimes a bit of yeast into a batter-like starter and let it sit at room temperature, loosely covered. Over several days, you stir and feed it with more ingredients as it bubbles and ferments. When it's active and slightly tangy sweet, you divide it into portions. Each portion goes into a bag or jar with a set of instructions: how to feed it, when it's ready to bake, and how to split it again for others. Recipients can use their portion to make a cinnamon-scented, cake-like loaf and still have starter left to share. It's a gift that asks them to participate rather than just consume. For many people, it becomes a small ritual: stirring, feeding, watching the bubbles. The ingredients are simple and cheap, but what you're really gifting is an introduction to baking and a link in a chain of sharing that can continue for months. And there you have it. 25 Amish gift-making secrets that prove you don't need deep pockets to give something meaningful. Whether you start with one idea or try all of them, every handmade gift saves you money right now while giving the people you care about something they'll actually use and remember. If this video helped you see gift-giving differently, make sure to subscribe for more old-fashioned skills that stretch your budget and simplify your life. Until next time, keep creating, keep saving, and keep proving that the best gifts don't come from a store, they come from your hands.